social.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another TCGScrubs podcast. This time with one less Oscar and one normal Colin and...
Me, Joey, or Joe.
Nice. If you guys aren't part of it, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/TCGScrubs, where we uploaded a mini podcast already 2 days ago. Technically yesterday, doesn't matter too much. So we have that on there, and we just finished up a giveaway in which Rumor won the last giveaway for some playmats, and a lot of different other sort of things going on there. We just reached our final Patreon goal. I had actually never thought we would reach that goal, so I don't have any other goals after that, so maybe I'll add another one on there, but it's to get a cool little filming tent for things like deck profiles and other related things to that we'll get into as we get there, but I'm pretty excited about getting that, and yeah, so thanks a lot for your guys' support. And if you want to join up on that, like I said, patreon.com/TCGScrubs, and you can also follow us on our Facebook. We have Twitter and our Discord as well. It's all in the description.
I forgot. I always forget that we have Twitter.
Oh yeah, we got the Twitter. I think we technically have an Instagram as well. You have to ask Oscar. He's in charge of all the stuff that isn't YouTube and Facebook, because those are the important ones. Oh, and Patreon, because that is also the important one. You tweeters, you young tweeters.
So what are you talking about today, Colin?
The main thing we're going to be talking about is we'll be going over just sort of like talking about the ARG that just happened. I'll be going into depth as far as like I guess not into depth, but hopefully I'm waiting to get for some more information, hopefully of the actual ruler breakdowns at the event and some more details on it. And so once I get that, I'll relay that in the news tomorrow, as well as I'll have an article with a detailed breakdown of the top 8 deck lists and all that, the full list of players and stuff like that. So stay tuned tomorrow for the news and the accompanying article for that information. But yeah, so we'll go over what we do know and sort of our thoughts on it. So this ARG happened in Las Vegas.
Yep.
Which Joey didn't want to drive there for some reason.
Well, I didn't even know about this. Shut your mouth.
So it was a little bit of, huh?
This is like yesterday. This is Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a smaller one. It was 18 people, I believe, was the attendance of this. So the top 8 of this is not really indicative of it because literally just 10 people didn't make the top 8 is all, if it's one way to think about it. But it's still interesting to look at. And we'll go over our thoughts and another aspect of it after we go through the top 8 that I think is going to be kind of interesting, especially going forward, that we've never really had in this game before. So we'll talk about that after, but first we'll go through the top 8 and sort of our thoughts. So first place was Idrisil, the Malefic Tree. So that was kind of cool. We have Evil Tree here. What are your thoughts on that, Joey?
So I thought, probably along with a lot of other people, that Evil Tree was dead now that it lost a lot of its support. But it looks like that's probably not the case, because I think Evil Tree was always pretty solid control list. It beats out aggro, it beats out dealing damage, and I think it just has a lot of good stuff to it with it. Even without a lot of the really fancy support, I think it's still really, really strong.
Yeah. No,
but it also kind of depends on I don't know what the deck breakdown and stuff I think an important question to ask was there must have been IUs at the event, right? I mean, that's
the thing I was gonna talk about after the top 8.
And Yggdrasil is seems like it can do a lot of good versus IU. That's as an aside.
This is one thing I think I'm always pretty good at, is I'm not good at figuring out what to do, what'll make a deck really, really pop out and be good, but I'm good at predicting what decks will be good. And when rotation was happening, I told Oscar, was all right, Evil Tree was fun while it lasts, it's gonna die now. And I said, I don't think so, because the way the deck is designed and works, especially some of the support cards that came with it and different things like that, although I don't know how many support cards, if it looks like a couple, but I feel like that there's going to be some type of combo inside of this deck or some sort of support for it that'll make it work post rotation, and it'll still be a viable deck. And I wasn't sure if it'd be like a tier 1 deck or anything, but I felt it would still be competitive. And I was 100% right, so I'm just going to point that out.
Maybe not 100%, but because I mean, this is just an ARG, man.
Well, almost every top 8 has had an evil tree post rotation,
and I do think it's important that it got first out of like 7 other farers.
Yeah, no, I think
or 5 other farers at least.
Spoilers.
Could be.
All right, so
whatever. I'm sure they've already all looked at all the top 8 deck lists.
You'd be surprised. Second, this it's weird to get to this top 8 deck list. It hasn't been shared as much. But second place is Fairer. So this was a Fairer that... was there anything different about this particular one, Jay?
This one was blue, green, white, which I think is really interesting. You know, you see the majority of Fairers, I think, the basic deck list is usually green, red. And you will usually play like Maria Bella and stuff. I know the third place deck list is also green, white, blue, I believe, and then some of the other fairs are like typical green reds, if I'm looking at this correctly. Let me scroll through real quick. Yeah, but oh, you know what? No, this other one is blue also. It's got Lowly Spirit Bug. Is that all it plays? No. That's Lumiate list. My bad. Hold on. My bad. That's green red. That is also green red. Yeah. Okay. So the second and third place were both fairs. Spoiler. And they are both green, white, blue fairs, which I think is really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at the third place. Yeah, and they have their deep wood and stuff like that in there.
Yeah, like, you know, they have like they're basically just playing Dawn of the Earth and Millennia Bond in their main deck, and Shell's Return is also really important. But like a Rendezvous of Light and Wind, they're both playing that, which I think is a very interesting card in this kind of in a fair deck list. I mean, I guess it brings out like Tia, or like, I don't know, Commander of the Crowd, I guess, if they have that. But I don't like Commander of the Crowd anyways. But anyways.
Well, I mean, if you get an extra effect, it makes Commander of the Crowd worth it, because now you're paying the price, but you're also getting an extra effect on top of it.
I guess if you give them plus, you know, put down 4 plus on counters, like it does make the little elves that she summons pretty good. Yeah. Anyways, it could also be, it looks to me like they could have added these guys to maybe to combat IU. I know one of them has 3. I think they both have 3 Amatros's Foresight in the sideboard. So this could just be like literally just a response to IU's, you know, being like important and played now.
Yeah.
And, you know, like a green red fair isn't gonna be able to sideboard Foresight or anything. So it could just be, you know, they're doing that, you know, supplementing it with good blue, white, green combos like Millennia Bond. They have Millennia Bond, Dawn of the Earth, and Shell's Return, and Rendezvous of Light and Wind. And like those are all just really good green, blue, or green, white, or blue, white cards.
Yeah.
So. I mean, fair is gonna fare. So.
Fourth place looks like our more classic fairer with our red and our Mariabella with the basic magic stones in there and all that. I don't think, is there anything really different on here than our classic fairer?
A little bit. I mean, Kame. I don't think Kame is usually ran. I don't think CL is usually ran. But I mean, I don't know.
I feel like Kame is like super underrated in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. Like. Besides that, nothing really. I don't think people play Fate seeing the Fate spinning wins. I mean, those are all 1-ups, so it's, you know, that's just
neither here nor there.
Preference, I guess.
So next we had another evil tree. That was pretty cool. So like we're seeing once again the evil tree. And I think that's it. Could be just do you think it's do you think it's because Evil Tree is actually really good, or is it more so these fair decks were planning for IU and less the tree, so they just were countering the wrong things?
No, I think there's plenty of like some of these fair decks that I think would are just regular fair decks that the tree probably fought against. Like, I just think that tree is just naturally really good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think, I think it just has like it bricks out a lot of like aggro stuff, and it's just like it still has a competent like shell and everything. Like, it's still just a good control deck in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, it lost a couple things, but it still has really good stuff. So
yeah, that's pretty good. Next we have Lumia. So this is the only Lumia in there, and pretty. I think there's at least one or two interesting things in here. It also runs the Rendezvous of Light and Wind. It runs. What do we got here? We have Ultimate Swordsmaster Faria. Oh, and the one you were excited about was Mosasaurus.
oh yeah, I think Mosasaurus is really good in like, I mean, that's not really good, but it's basically like a hook replacement. It's a little bit more like tempo based, since Hook just was a lot better, but it does hit more things. I think it hits 3. Yeah, it hits 3
and
magic stones.
It hits any 3. It doesn't have to be special magic stones as well. So
I mean, you could, like, depending on if like what your opponent's doing or how early you get this thing out, like, you could lock them out of an entire color.
Well, it's nice because it also has a secondary effect in case you can't or don't want to tap the stones. You can also destroy Arrested Resonator, which is something I did playing against Oscar earlier today. He only had 2 stones tapped, and he had like 4 other stones, and it really didn't matter if I kept those 2 stones tapped because he could play whatever he wanted anyway. So I ended up just destroying, I think it was like a Sylvia or something like that instead, which I felt like benefited me a lot more because not only did I get rid of the Sylvia, but Sylvia's effect of not being able to block was extremely annoying and stuff. So I like that it has a secondary effect on top of that. So you actually have, like, I guess Hook kind of had that with bouncing resonators as well. Yeah. But this actually destroys something rather than just bouncing it.
I really, really like, I really like Mosasaurus. Like,
I did too. Oscar thought it was 6 cost, but it's only 5, so it's basically like a different version of Hook. And if Hook was legal, it'd just be up to people's preference of what they do. It's definitely less and inside of a Lumia deck, obviously you would go for Hook. But outside of a Lumia deck, I feel like it's definitely a preference base, and it's less trolly than Hook, especially inside of a Lumia deck. Because you can actually recover from its effect.
I think there's a lot of interesting cards in here. Like, I was looking at Ultimate Swordsmaster Faria. She is like one of the things people would probably play against, like an IU deck.
Oh yeah.
It basically prevents first damage would be dealt to this card and to you each turn. So like, and it's also, I don't think it's running any actual foresight, so. Which is interesting. Yeah, it's not. Anyways.
It's... Oh, no, that's Amaret's, who kind of light. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I mean, luckily, it has the 3 birds of Divine Birds of Ataraxia, so, like... Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's got enough to work there. I think the Faria is a really interesting idea, actually. Thinking about it, but it's probably missing... I don't think it probably works that great against Fair, and that's probably why it's lower in the list. But I think it probably could have done good against an IU deck. Next,
I mean, who knows?
Next we have Fairer again. Hold on. Real quick, the Lumia deck, the deck name of the Lumia deck was Flicker My Moby Dick.
Yeah, I saw it. That's pretty funny.
That's pretty good.
So I had actually seen that before I actually looked at the list, and my first thought was oh my gosh, this guy's playing Mosasaurus. That's awesome.
So next we got another Fairer. So this one's looks like another standard red green with your basic stones for your Mariabella, Otherworld Dreams, Sylvia, Fiery Fox.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, this one's standard.
Super standard.
Yeah.
Not super standard, but very standard.
They might have. This person has definitely been on the net, if you get my drift.
Oh, shush.
Next and lastly, we got Fair. Their deck name is LOL. And this one, interesting. They ran 4 basic Wind Magic Stones for this one.
Yeah.
Which I think I agree with, because if you're green is your main thing.
Well,
Wait, hold on a sec. Let me check something.
They don't run any.
Oh, there's Maribella's side deck.
I think it's mainly for the little red.
Yeah.
The Fairy Tale of Air or whatever. That one is.
I was about to say, for Maribella, that's what I would personally do, is run just the basic Magic Stones, because in my opinion, her green theme is better than her red one, because you don't need to spend red to destroy a Resonator when you could just preemptively do green to cancel it before it even hits the field, so you don't have to worry about enter effects or Resonator that's stronger than the amount of damage you can do with your red counter. So I feel like green is the one you should be more emphasized on.
It looks like it's purely for little red, making sure her swiftness is online.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, there's nothing else no other reason to have it.
I feel like well, it's pretty strong on its own, I guess. If you were to pull 4 basics greens in a row, I feel like that would hurt you pretty bad, especially if you pulled Sylvia's and stuff like that.
They actually do run 4 Mariabellas in their sideboard.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even look. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but
they run like Blood Boil and Sprinting Flame Horse and stuff. None of those that are in their main deck. I mean, they did get 8th place, so take that as you will. But yeah, so real quick before I move on to that next thing, what are your overall thoughts on this top 8 right here?
I mean, I think I don't know. It seems interesting to like look at ARG results and be like, well, they only had 18 people. Like, our ARG had like 18 people, around 18 people, and like the skill level, huh?
Ours had more than that.
I don't know.
Ours had like 27 or something.
No, we did not have 27. We had around 18.
Pretty
sure. Anyways, but so it's important to like look at where like the skill level of people attending is at. Like, there could have been like 4 IU decks there, and they just weren't piloted by people who understood like their lines of attack and stuff. Like, that could be a reason, for example, that IU isn't in here. This person, like, both the tree users could have topped one with tree and like gotten 5th with tree because they were just good players, good base players. Like, it seems likely that the 2nd and 3rd place fairer both might have been like people who were planning on bringing the same deck. They had tested out a bunch of different decks and they decided like, oh, we should go with blue, white, green fairer, and that's why you see like I think these lists are very, very, very similar. In fact, I mean, I think they're almost the same. I didn't actually really look too deep into it, but so these guys might have just been testing, 2 guys who were testing a bunch, and they just went to ARG really prepared for to play and had the same lists, and that's why like they topped with a green, white, blue fair.
Yeah. Do you think? See, the thing that are you afraid? It's not too bad, at least. It's not all a top 8, but with 5 of them being fairer, are you sort of worried about the power level of fairer, or do you think it's just because it's a small ARG and we'll get more correct results with the next larger competition?
I always thought fairer was just ridiculous. Like when I played him, and my build wasn't even like optimal or anything, and like with some of the new stuff, like the new cancels, and like something I hadn't thought of, playing Flying Cloud in the deck is just like insane. Like, I do think he's a little he's too strong. Like, I mean, I don't want to say that he's as strong as Prisha or as like oppressive, but I do think that he's probably one of the stronger rulers right now, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like,
I see it, well, 2 things. One, I do think it's a bad thing only because we've already it's not like it's been like this the whole time. We had for a short while a glimpse of what it was like when all the rulers were on a pretty even playing field, and top eights had a variety of rulers, and then it was very rare you found two top eights that were similar, or a top eight that did not have a ruler unique to that top eight because a random ruler broke in there. And so you could go in, you felt the need, you could go in with any ruler and you had a chance at top eight, whereas now it feels like we got Lumia, Evil Tree, Fair, and probably IU. And if you run anything besides those four, you're not going to make top eight. But like on Fair specifically, the thing that I found weird was that I personally find kind of strange about him is their judgment cost, because I feel like you can get away with his passive ability, his J activation, how strong that is and all that. But the weird thing is he has this passive ability that essentially makes it so he can tap mana pretty easily. They give him support cards to give him elves so that he can tap more, untap, and then tap more mana easily, in addition to support that was already there. But then it made his judgment not that much. I feel like you could have gotten, like with Millium 2.0, like I was just playing with Millium 2.0, he has a passive that works for when he J activates where you roll dice, but it also makes it so his judgment costs less. And to offset that, they made it so his judgment just on the offset costs 7. And it's not till way later in the game where you can get it down to maybe costing 2 to J activate. But and I feel like they should have done with that with Fair, because Fair has a passive ability to untap mana and tap it, untap it, tap it over and over again. So you would want his judgment to be more, because he could judgment super, super early on, or later on without technically spending will because of the amount of flooding he's done.
I mean, you can only tap his elves once per turn for mana. So like
but you're talking about an elf deck though. So you've got that, you've got Sacred Elf, you've got other methods.
But he's really only adding 1 mana to your mana pool, like each turn.
Yeah, but that 1 mana, if you do the turn 1 combo, you've got Sacred Elf. So going into turn 2, you instantly can J activate because you have Sacred Elf and you have 2 elves that can recover your 1 stone, which is the 3 will you need it. And if you tested with the deck before you released that, you would know, okay, he can J activate instantly turn 2, no matter what. But not no matter what, but you know what I'm saying, pretty consistently. And so that was the main problem. I feel like you can keep his strength the same it is, but the 3 cost judgment, which is the same cost as 90% of the rulers, if not less than a significant amount of others. I felt kind of weird when they made Green Dragon cost 5 to J activate.
Well, yeah, but the dragons are terrible. Like nobody plays dragons. There's a reason. It's
because they cost 5 costs to J activate.
Yeah, because they're bad cards.
They're not that bad.
My thing is I think Fair at 4 mana. I don't think his J activating is the issue, and how early you can do it. I mean, I don't know. I think the things that he does when he does J activate is the main problem, and the effects that he gets when he's out. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's early, but I don't think his cost of J activating is terrible. I feel at 4 it would be just a little too expensive, because I think it seems like he does too much when he flips, and so I do kind of agree that that's probably an issue, more than, I don't know, but I think it's a compound of if we are gonna say that he's wildly overpowered, which I don't think he is. I think he's probably the strongest J ruler, but I think that there's a lot of other just J rulers that are just as strong. But if he is overpowered, I think it's a combination of his ramp, his low judgment cost, and what he does when he flips, and the control that you get after he has landed on the board with his Gale counters. Those offer up so much maneuverability and protection for everything. And then on top of that, if you throw in if you do have Flying Cloud, I think that's a really important tech that is really, really sneaky, because you can get Fair in for 2,500 damage.
Yeah.
And that's pretty ridiculous.
Um,
On top of, Tia being just really, really strong. But at the same time, I feel like at 4 mana, like, when you deactivate, like, you're, like, getting Tia for 4 mana, like, kind of sucks. So you need 1 more mana to play the Falcon. I don't know. I feel like
it sucks
4 mana
so much.
Yeah, well, it does. It makes him a lot weaker.
Well, so on the subject of strong rulers, so the one that we didn't see that we're expecting to see was Ayu. And so we're briefly talking about why that might not be. And because I feel like Ayu has a pretty decent chance of fighting off Fairer if done correctly. So the first way it could have gone is there's people that may, like you had said, maybe they're piloting the deck and they're not good at it. Maybe Ayu isn't as strong as we thought it was. It just had the surprise factor, although I don't think so. It feels pretty consistently good, in my opinion. But do you want to explain what the thought we had of what might have happened?
Well, I had thought, and after looking through all these deck lists, I'm thinking maybe it wasn't. Like, so my thoughts was, like, people were prepared for this. If you look at the top, like, if you look at just the top 8, in my opinion, we have 4 decks that are, like, good counters to, well, not good counters, but, like, they have stuff that can counter Ayu. Like, the 2 Fairer decks both have Amatros's Foresight in their sideboard, I think. And so, like, I think that just bricks out Ayu a lot and, like, can get fair, like, it gives him enough time to actually get rolling. So I feel like those 2 decks can put up a good fight and maybe win versus Ayu. I think both the trees have, like, their built-in mechanism of discarding, cards when you take damage instead of actually taking damage. Basically makes Ayu have to go from even the 1 turn 4,000 damage combo, I think is really stretching it and how consistent that is. So, like, I feel like most Ayus at least have to attack twice, and they're burning a lot of spirits and stuff for it. So trying to get to 60 damage or 6,000 damage is, like, way more challenging. And I mean, they don't have to get to exactly 6,000, but Tree has, like, a lot of built-in wiggle room, and I feel like versus an Ayu deck, if you can survive for a little bit, like, you can wrestle back control and
yeah,
kind of bring the game back around for you.
But,
so I feel like it's more that some of these decks were, like, more prepared, less than they were just bad. But yeah,
Did you explain that thought in there? I don't think you did. So that
no.
So that's your
yeah. That was my reasoning.
Your reasoning.
I thought there wasn't an Ayu here. I did think the other
thought is that maybe that people were a combination of both couldn't access Ayu, or if they could access it, were priced out of being able to buy Ayu and all the company cards to build an Ayu deck. Because I was just looking in the top sites, TCG Player Cool Stuff Incorporated, Troll and Toad, and then some other small sites. And I briefly looked, I don't look that in depth, but really quick looked on eBay, and all of them don't have Ayus in stock. And the prices that they have on there range. Cool Stuff has it, if it was in stock, as 60. TCG Player has the market price at 32, but the couple times I've seen it on there is like $60 to $90 and stuff like that, which we've never really had a card be priced up that high for a single card, including rulers. Outside of Ubers, we've never had a card. We have Ubers cheaper than this normal card is, and with the amount of booster boxes that people are buying that are. I still disagree with the fact that you can buy a booster box and only get old rulers, regardless of ratios. I think that's dumb. I think you should be guaranteed a new ruler. Right. So the fact that you have people who are going out and they maybe like me, and I'll at most usually get 1 booster box of the set, and that's all I got. and then I might buy some singles after, or single rulers. But if I buy that box and I don't have an IU pulled in it, or a Welser for that matter, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to run an IU deck. I spent my $90, $100 or whatever on the booster box. I don't have the money now to go spend basically almost a booster box to get one ruler. So it's like, okay, I'm not doing an IU deck now, because then I also have to get 4 possession stones, which are pretty expensive, I think, as well as 40 individual cards, which range from pretty cheap to decently expensive, like Severine Winds. So you're looking at a pretty expensive IU deck, just mainly because of that base price for the ruler, if you can find it. And maybe you have the money to do it, but you just can't find it. Like I said, none of the sites had it in stock. So I feel like, granted, this is a small ARG, 18 people, so it might affect it at least in some part, because I feel like people could, even when it's countered, you can definitely at least see at least one IU deck in this top 8, because I feel like it's a strong enough deck to have at least, if Lumia and Idrisil and Farah are all in there, I feel like IU should have a representation in there. And the fact that it didn't, I feel like it might have been a couple people who ran it got squashed out, and the couple people who would have been really good at it couldn't afford it. Might have been a situation we've seen.
I mean, you have to imagine that there were at least a handful of IU decks. Like, so there's 18, we saw 8, there's 10 left. I feel like 3 of those should be an IU. Like 3 to 5 should be IU.
I don't know, because if 5 of the cards are, 5 of the top 8 are fairer, then statistically, I feel like at least 10 of them were fairer that were there. That leaves 2 guaranteed were Idrisil, and 1 was guaranteed Lumia, probably more. So that leaves a grand total of 5 people left, and those 5 people probably ran, and there's at least a couple of those people who ran other Lumias or other Evil Trees, or so another random ruler. So at least 3 of them. So I would say at most we would have, if there was an IU showing, it would have been at most 2 people, I think. 2 to 3 people. Well, maybe. Hopefully we'll find out specifics.
Yeah,
but
I would see. I really do think that it's interesting to see, like, if, like, maybe just people weren't on the IU train for, like, going into this ARG, like, because I do think it's important. Like, it definitely could be that they were just priced out of, like, you know, they had been thinking of going into the ARG, like they had bought their fair, you know, deck lists and their, you know, their forums and their play sets and made their deck, and all of a sudden, like, IU is you know, like all of a sudden a thing. Like, are you just gonna scrap the fair that you already got for this ARG?
I also saw a post that even Matthew Hawkins, who runs Barcadia Gaming, is having trouble getting a hold of IUs from people so that he can sell it. So another thing I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see how many IUs there were.
Yeah, I'm curious,
because I think that's interesting. That's another.
What are your thoughts if we get that list and there was a 0 IU showing? Do you think that's just the nature of an 18-person ARG, just people aren't going to bring it, or would you correlate that to the pricing out?
Well, okay, so, man, I feel like it would have to be a little bit attributed to being priced out. But I mean, I couldn't even see, like, not even a single IU there. I don't know. I think it would be. I would have to give it up to, like, it has to be a combination of, like, nobody was on the IU train that wanted to go there, and, like, maybe some people who weren't going to buy it. Like, combination of that would have, like, there just would have been 0 IUs. Yeah. I would say that instead of this being indicative of, like, oh, IU isn't very good, this is more like, oh, there were literally just 0 IUs, and so, like, we still don't know what kind of power level she actually has.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be pretty insane.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll find that out.
It's funny. It's interesting to think that I feel like we've learned less about the top decks by, like, the top 8 than if we had known, like, what the other 10 were. Like, the other 10 is going to give us more information than the top 8 deck list.
Like why they are where they are and all that.
Yeah. Like it'll be especially telling if they were just like 1 or 0 IUs, because like you can just have shitty luck, like in like going into an ARG and you got your
Well, you can
the
run an
exact same
IU
deck
deck
list.
that counters whatever deck you're going against, and then you draw 5 crappy cards and you mulligan into 5 crappy cards because of the nature of the deck. And
Exactly.
just, life happens. You don't
Yeah,
draw a
like
single spirit
that's
resonator type of thing.
yeah, like that's your game one down. Game two, somebody sideboards in like foresight versus you could just get matched against one of the two fair decks that were playing foresight, like go all in and then get foresighted because you're like, well, I gotta pull the trigger sometime, I'm gonna do it now and go for lethal, and then you get blown out. Like that's one game loss. Your second game loss could be a combination of it. You could just have a really close game and lose, and that's 2 game losses, and now you're just locked out of top 8.
Yeah.
But who knows? I'm very
So,
interested to see. Yeah,
all right, so we'll go ahead and move on to our ruler of the week.
yeah, that was a long discussion.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So our ruler of the week, in case you guys couldn't tell from the thumbnail, is Pandora. So we went ahead with Pandora, which hasn't had too much of a showing, mainly due to lack of support in the sets for her, unfortunately.
And, yeah, she sucks.
Well, I think she's pretty decent for your locals and stuff like that. I think she can actually do pretty good at your locals, which is where I like to focus things at. Competitively, yeah, no, she's just not viable yet. She
doesn't have enough.
If there's like 2 or 3 cards, I think she needs to run like, or let's say 2 cards. I feel like if she got 2 cards to run full play sets, 8 cards inside of her deck that were really good, like a field card, all golems are always mobilized and gain swiftness. I don't know. There's stuff they could do that could definitely make her viable, but unfortunately, as of right now, it's just like sort of a fun deck to make for your locals. But on that note, if you were to make this deck go into your locals, especially if you have a bunch of golems laying around and you want to make a deck around it, like I do, I have Pandora, Ruler, and golems, and I think it definitely has potential to be a really fun deck to play. So we'll go ahead and get into the. Let's start with like how do you run this deck, Joey? Is it a spell heavy deck, or do you try and flood the field and just try and mobilize stuff with your ruler?
It's such a weird, like, you only get 1 free mobilize per turn, so like trying to do some kind of like flood the field probably isn't gonna work. Like you want like using your golems and then having to mobilize them with actual mana sucks because you're not playing things that turn. A lot of the golems just aren't worth playing, so they suck. And then like probably her best golem weapon is like you usually get it out, and if something kills it, like a really easy destroy target, like a really easy murder, it's just like you're basically like 1 for 4ing the enemy, or 1 for 2, like 2 for 1ing them, and like that's just completely shitty. So I don't know how to play this deck. In my opinion, you want to do like some kind of mid-range, like beat-down deck, but it just doesn't work for what she has. Like I don't know, a lot of the spells.
I think its strength comes in with the big guns. So doing stuff like playing or cheating in the big resonator, the big golem, and using your free mobilize for that big golem, and protecting it with things like Raw, the card that goes with Raw, Magic Sweets, different things like that. So you have to pay extra, and there's just like just basically doing that, just giant things, cheating out giant things is I think how it could best go, and then side decking certain cards in it to in case your opponent's running a field, populating their field with a bunch of stuff. It has field clear built into it.
I think
it probably has trouble with J rulers. It would probably be its main problem, which would be bad against IU. But against most other decks that are either resonator heavy, whether it's flooding the field or a single resonator, I think it is where it shines.
You'd probably have to play Glorious. like to take care of resonators, or at least have.
That's true. That is a good point. Yeah, running.
In your sideboard.
Running like 2 or 3 in your sideboard, depending on how much of it. If it's an IU, probably running 2 or 3 because you're going to have to repeatedly destroy that ruler.
Yep.
But
and you'll probably just die because you have to take damage for the glorious to work.
So I'll start with.
Just have to deal damage, but
I'll start with my recommended card to go in here. So running along those lines of you want to cheat in the big resonator. So there's a couple ways to do that. But I think the most interesting way is with this card, which is Pandora's Order. So this is the 4-cost quick cast where you put target golem from your graveyard into the field, and it is mobilized until end of turn. At the next end of turn, return it to its owner's hand. So what we get is a cool little combo here. If you're running green in your deck, you can Planting Beans your big golem into theirs. I'll specifically, when I talk about big golem, I'm talking about Ultimate Magic Warrior Gear Atmos, because I like him. So we're going to talk about this combo. So for 4 cost, so obviously you have to have 4 will up. The idea is there's a specific phase going that I learned about going from your opponent's end phase to your beginning phase, where it's their end phase, and you're playing that card during their end phase technically, but it's technically during your turn because it's after the end phase is triggered, but it's still on your opponent's turn. So when you play it, when the Ultimate Magic Warrior, if he's in your graveyard and you put him onto your field, he'll now have swiftness technically because he was out on the field on your opponent's turn, but the end of turn hasn't triggered for him to bounce back into your hand. So for 4 cost, you put him out during after your enemy's end phase, and when he enters the field, you get to destroy a resonator your opponent controls. So you get that off, and then you get to swing in with a 2,000 for free because he's already mobilized because you have the 4-cost spell. And now he's in your hand, so if you play Summon Magic Warriors for 3, you can now, since you already have 4 will up,
pop him back in.
Yeah, you can pop him back in by banishing those 3 warriors. And now he's in the field. You get to destroy another resonator. He doesn't get to swing in, but now he's on the field permanently. And if he dies, you go back to your Pandora's Order to bring him back out again and just repeat that process or some variant of it. So I think Pandora's Order, obviously it works with other golems as well, and obviously it mobilizes them, which is extremely helpful. But I think this is the best card to have in there because of that end phase trigger, where it basically will have swiftness without you having to run an extra card to give it swiftness.
I see when you play that.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Thoughts, concerns?
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that combo. That feels really good. I didn't really like playing blue in this deck because I thought a lot of the blue golems weren't super great. But after hearing that, I think I kind of enjoy that play. I like that. I think I'm thinking that I agree with you that like it seems like the only way to play this deck is to bring out your big guns, like basically focus it around like the Gear Atmos, the Ultimate Magic Warrior, and then I agree, like you kind of have to play like cards like Raw and the free Raw
and Magic Suites,
and Magic Suites, and like if you do play like that, then you can protect your like Gear Atmos. You know when he comes into play, you get to kill a resonator, which is great. I agree. Pandora's Order would be a really good idea.
Really what card were you looking at for your recommended?
So I was pretty much going with the basic Crippling Light, destroy all non-golem resonators. I think it's like the best. It's like a hard reset. I love board wipe like this. 5 mana is a little expensive for me, but like if it was at 4, it'd be kind of broken. Like one of the good wrath effects that I liked earlier was that they had released. It was a mystery counter one.
Oh yeah, the
Dance in the Moonlight. If you awaken it, you remove 2 and you destroy all resonators instead. But that the thing that like I feel like that's like 4 cost is great for like for like a wrath effect like that. But something I really like about this is that you're probably going to be running golems, so you won't kill your own stuff. So,
yeah, I like that. That it's basically like protection against you, and just like everything that is not me, go away. Assuming you're not running anything that's which if you're running raw, obviously raw will go away. But and it's nice that it's destroy. It's not dealing damage, so that helps. It's not targeting, so you get around barrier. You get around Will-O-Wisp, for example. Both its barrier and it's gaining health. It doesn't get around things that can't be destroyed. For that, you'd have to run the Lumia's Judgment, but for it's just a great wipe, I think. I agree, the 5 cost is pretty high. I feel like there's some other cards like Lumia's Judgment. I forget. I guess that one varies cost, if I'm thinking of the right card. I might be saying the wrong name. But it is also nice knowing the amount you have to pay. And I feel like this is a high cost deck. I feel like in order for it to run good, you have to get to that turn 4, and then that's when the deck starts rolling. I don't really see it doing good early game. It has the 1 cost, because it has decent 1 cost drops, but then they cost 1 to mobilize and stuff. So you don't have anything early game to attack or block. And so it's really, I would honestly probably take a hit and not run any low cost golems. I would just run high cost golems, like 4 cost and up, maybe 3 cost and up, and then just run a lot of low cost 1 and 2 costers to help populate your field, to help defend against your opponent. If you're running green for planting beans, like I mentioned earlier, run a bunch of divine birds to help block against flying, against IU and stuff like that, to just help stave it off until you can start just putting out all these big guys and wiping their field with your card and stuff like that.
What is a card that brings something from your graveyard into play on the field that's in black right now?
That is Oscar was just using it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought it up.
It doesn't put it into field. It's a 1 cost that puts from your graveyard into your hand. Unless you're thinking of something else.
No, yeah, I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking Oscar. I was thinking the Uber combo.
Yeah, it's a 4 cost.
Yes.
It's here. I'll look it up if you wanna.
Well, I was trying to find it, but I can't find it.
Here, give me.
Anyways, I was just thinking about like
Dark Revolution.
Dark Revolution.
Put target resonator from your graveyard into the field.
Yeah. So I mean, I was just thinking like, is that an older?
So running black in a golem deck could be interesting because you could get some J Ruler hate inside of a black deck, and you could add some more field clear. You could make a deck basically around field clear with the Atmos was destroying a resonator, with your crippling light to destroy resonators. You run those to both destroy things, destroy rulers, destroy resonators, and also cheat out your golems even some more. So maybe like a 3-color deck, I feel like. Maybe a black, white, green. So that way you have other ways to cheat stuff out and cancels. If I was going to run
something like this, I feel like I would just try and keep continually cheating Gear Atmos and then protect him with Raw and Magic Suites, and then do some kind of build like that. Because,
I would throw in...
Yeah.
And I'd throw in Dreams of Flight or something for flying. This is the only thing I would add. Because if you can block an IU with Gear Atmos, then if you're not killing her, at least you're making her waste all her soul resonators to stay alive. And even if she gives herself pierce, it's not that much going through. He dies, and you have plenty of ways to cheat him back out. So all you need is something to give him flying pretty consistently. Or running just Secluded Elven Village. If you're running green, you just throw that out, and now you're set for the game.
That card sucks.
Nah, you're crazy. That's a great card. You ran it. Didn't you run it?
No, I got...
Oh, no, you got shut down by it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Scrub was playing a Scrub deck and had it.
And you got shut down
lucky.
Hard.
It wasn't hard, okay? I was going to win the second game. It was very, very close. I was going to win the second game. I was short like 200 damage.
All right, so that's...
Anyways.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Want to
Yeah.
do it? Okay.
Huh? No, yeah. I was definitely warming up to that idea
Of a golem.
of a golem deck. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I might go. I made a golem deck a while
I made
back.
a golem deck too.
Weren't we gonna do a panda competition? God damn.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, we got pretty busy. Maybe we'll still do that. Luckily, no one remembers. Anyways, I'd be down for a golem competition too, because now I kind of want to make a golem deck. But yeah, so thanks a lot once again to our patrons. That them are literally the reason the podcast exists, especially in this form. It's the reason we got like all the stuff, and it's how we pay our monthly fee. If you guys are listening to this on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Google Play, that costs money per month, and that's because of Patreon is paying for that essentially. So thanks a lot for that. If you want to support us, like I said, patreon.com/TCGScrubs, and all the things, subscribe for our more daily content, which we went over it on a Patreon, I guess, but our schedule now that we're actually back in the swing of things, Monday will be a Force of Will game, Tuesday will be the podcast, Wednesday is the news, Thursday will be Eternal gameplay, or if that's not up, some other type of gameplay or video, and Friday will be Caster Chronicles gameplay, as well as during spoiler season there will be a separate video for Caster Chronicles spoilers as well. And
I'm making that.
I'm doing it. I already have a video up. You should go watch it. There's actually a really cool mechanic they introduced. And some really freaking pretty cards. I'm actually really digging the cards. They're really pushing that. How much they can get away with, though. But yeah, so thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.